Methylation. It's this buzzword that everybody's hearing about, but what is it and why is it important? To answer these questions, I've invited a top expert in the field. Here with Dr. Nate Handley, triple board certified in internal medicine, medical oncology, and integrative medicine. Dr. Handley, let's talk about a topic we're hearing a lot about, many patients want to know more about, methylation. Why is it important?
Yeah, methylation is something that I hear about a lot. A lot of people are asking me about it. It's really simple from a biochemical standpoint, and it's really a biochemical term. It's the transfer of one carbon from one molecule to another. But why do we care about that? We care about it because methylation is actually involved in essentially not every pathway in your body, but many important pathways in our body. It's important for detoxification. It's important for energy production. It's important for repairing genes. It's important for turning genes on and off. And so it's really a very integral part of health. I often use the analogy of a car, and methylation is kind of like the oil in the car's engine. You really got to have a good level of oil in your engine for the engine to work properly. If you don't have enough, the engine can burn out. If you have too much, it can also be a problem. Your engine might seize up. And so that's also true for our own health. You can be undermethylated, you can be overmethylated, and both instances can lead to health problems.
What causes these imbalances in methylation?
So there are a couple of factors. One is genes play an important role in it. There are several genes. One of the classic ones that people think about is a gene called MTHFR. What that is involved in is it's involved in folate metabolism. And so when people think about methylation, MTHFR is usually what comes to mind. And in fact, it's very common to have variants in this gene. About 70% of the population has at least one gene variant in MTHFR. And these variants can lead to decreased efficiency of the enzyme that the gene encodes. Essentially, it means that their methylation cycle becomes a little bit slower. It's a little more sluggish. So MTHFR is one of many genes. There's a whole host of other ones that you can test and look for.
But how would somebody know to even think in that direction? What might they be presented with, or what might they be struggling with that methylation comes up as a potential problem?
So methylation, either not enough or too much, can be associated with a number of different symptoms. One is brain fog. And so we think of brain fog as being related to gut health sometimes. It can also be related to methylation. Sometimes depression and anxiety can actually be associated with impaired methylation. Some cancers are associated with too much or too little methylation. Chronic fatigue is something that might happen with impaired methylation, or a sense of kind of being fidgety or kind of having too much energy can also be part of methylation. And so it can show up in a lot of different ways. It's kind of a chameleon in that regard. And so if there's an unusual symptom that you're having a hard time understanding or explaining, a good question to ask is, could methylation be part of the picture here? And oftentimes the answer is yes. It may be part of the answer.
So when you're assessing methylation, you look at the MTHFR gene. Mm-hmm. Anything else?
Yep. So we look at that gene. We look at several other genes as well. But then we also look at a number of micronutrients. And so methylation is this complex cycle. Each step of it is regulated by different micronutrients. And so some of the ones that we really think most about are actually the B vitamins. The most important ones potentially being B12 and folate. And so if someone's B12 and folate levels are low, which can happen for a number of reasons, maybe from low folate in their diet or maybe from poor absorption in the GI tract, then that's going to make it really hard for the methylation cycle to work well. And so there is a lot of testing that we can do to look at what factors that we know are important for methylation are present, maybe missing, or maybe insufficient. There may be there, but maybe not quite enough to work optimally.
So it sounds like then sometimes the answer would be to supplement a sufficient amount of B12 or folate, and or to address what's going on in the gut that's affecting absorption. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What other kinds of things?
So there are other dietary modifications that can be considered. And so for certain gene variants, tweaking your diet might be helpful. So there's another gene, for example, called PEMT that affects one's ability to make choline. And choline is another B vitamin, really. It's involved in a lot of different pathways. People don't talk about it as much, but it's really important. And it can be hard to get enough choline in your diet. The best dietary sources of choline are eggs,
which you can only eat so many of.
You can only eat so many of. Leafy greens can be good sources. Certain types of proteins can be good sources as well. But in some instances, it can also be helpful to supplement choline. Another thing that we think about is glycine. So glycine is an amino acid that is present in many foods, but the foods with the highest concentration of glycine are actually foods with collagen. And so, things like bone broth can be good sources of collagen. People can also take collagen supplements directly or glycine supplements directly. And so some people benefit from having added glycine as part of their regimen, either from dietary sources or from supplemental sources. I think it's common for people to think of methylation as being just B12 and just folate. But it's really more than that. It's more complicated than that. And so when we're testing for methylation, we are thinking about B12 and folate levels. We are looking for markers of methylation. And so a simple blood test that is often performed is a test called homocysteine. If homocysteine is elevated, then that is often an indication that someone's methylation is not adequate. It's usually a sign of undermethylation. And so a high homocysteine is something that would trigger us to start thinking about what are the things that we need to do to optimize methylation for this person. There's more advanced testing that you can do too. Having a normal homocysteine doesn't necessarily mean methylation is normal. And so if someone still has symptoms that we're having a hard time explaining, we sometimes do more advanced, really kind of precision testing that looks at many of the factors that can be involved in methylation. And so those are multiple B vitamins, things like magnesium, things like N-acetylcysteine, which is important for creating glutathione, which is the body's master antioxidant. So as it turns out, methylation is connected to many different pathways in the body. And if other pathways are not acting well or not operating at full capacity, those can have the downstream effect of then making methylation not work as well either.
The process of methylation and all of its pathways has some complexity to it. The good news is once you understand what's going on with a person, there's really a lot you can do.
Yeah, there's a lot you can do. And it is, even if someone has all of the gene variants that lead to impaired methylation, there's a lot of things that you can do to support that patient. And so there's really no reason that someone should be walking around with impaired methylation. This is really something that we can fix.
Well, I learned a lot about methylation today. Always a pleasure to have you, Dr. Handley. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Dr. Monti.